The lies linking me with the disgraceful Jeffrey Epstein need to end today. The individuals lying about me are devoid of ethical standards, humility, and respect. I am not Epstein's victim. Epstein did not introduce me to Donald Trump. The first time I crossed paths with Epstein was in the year 2000 at an event Donald and I attended together. At the time, I had never met Epstein and had no knowledge of his criminal undertakings. I call on Congress to provide the women who have been victimized by Epstein with a public hearing specifically centered around the survivors. Give these victims their opportunity to testify under oath in front of Congress with the power of sworn testimony. Each and every woman should have her day to tell her story in public.
Hello, Melania Trump. My name is Juliet Bryant. I'm an Epstein survivor. You want girls to testify under oath. Well, here I am testifying that everything I've said is true. Unfortunately, a lot of the girls who testified died. Maybe it's about time that you and your husband testified too. Thank you.
The investigation into Jeffrey Epstein, the fight to release the Epstein files, and even the effort to get justice for the survivors just took a wild turn. The House calling on Republicans who control Congress to give the Epstein survivors a congressional public hearing so they can openly tell their stories under oath. Now, what's so striking about this is the First Lady's comments are in direct contrast to what the Trump administration and her husband and the Republican-controlled Congress have been doing. And interestingly enough, this announcement from the First Lady comes less than a week after Pam Bondi was fired from her job as Attorney General, and just one day after the Trump Department of Justice announced that Bondi would not testify about her handling or mishandling of the Epstein files. And the Republican chairman of the House Oversight Committee tasked with handling all this Epstein stuff has openly talked about how he doesn't think it's necessary that Pam Bondi testify. Of course, the Department of Justice, which is under the full control of Melania's husband, President Donald Trump, to this day still has only released half of the actual Epstein files and have redacted names that probably should be public, which is in direct violation of the Epstein Files Transparency Act. On top of that, Epstein survivors have been saying publicly for months that the Trump DOJ has not even contacted them. Now, it is unclear why the First Lady decided to make this statement today, but it's clear she's upset about several things. One is that she disputes this narrative that Epstein introduced her to her now husband.
I am not Epstein's victim. Epstein did not introduce me to Donald Trump. I met my husband by chance at a New York City party in 1998. This initial encounter with my husband is documented in detail in my book, Melania.
The problem is this document exists. It is a 302 form in the Epstein file. So 302 form is a form filled out by the FBI who conducts a witness interview. And in this case, it is with a person whose name is redacted. So we assume that this person is a victim. And this person in this 302 form.
Yeah, what do you want?
On the Epstein files, you talked about Democrats who were in there. Elon Musk was also in there, and so was your Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick and correspondence that he had with him. Did you read those new files that were published by the Department of Justice?
I didn't. I have a lot of things I'm doing, a lot of things I'm doing. I don't know. You mentioned two names. I'm sure they're fine. Otherwise, it would have been major headlines.
A lot of women who are survivors of Epstein's are unhappy with those redactions that came out. Some of them, entire witness interviews are totally blacked out. Do you think that they should be more transparent?
With the fact that they thought they released too much. I heard that, and you tell me something else. No, I think it's really time for the country to get onto something else. Really, now that nothing came out about me, other than it was a conspiracy against me, literally by Epstein and other people. But I think it's time now for the country to maybe get onto something else.
What would you say to people people
like
feel like they haven't gotten
healthcare,
justice, Mr. President.
something that people care about. Yeah, what did you say? Go ahead.
What would you say to the survivors who feel like they haven't gotten
You are the
justice?
worst reporter. No wonder CNN has no ratings because of people like you. You know, she's a young woman. I don't think I've ever seen you smile. I've known you for 10 years. I don't think I've ever seen a smile on your face. You know why? You know why you're not smiling? Because you know you're not telling the truth, and you're a very dishonest organization, and they should be ashamed of you. Okay, go ahead.
Survivors of a sexual abuser.
Have you ever had a personal relationship with Donald Trump?
What do you mean by personal relationships?
Have you socialized with him?
Yes, sir.
Yes?
Yes, sir.
Have you ever socialized with Donald Trump in the presence of females under the age of 18?
Though I'd like to answer that question, at least today, I'm going to have to assert my 5th, 6th, and 14th Amendment rights, sir.
Amanda Ungaro and Zampoli, the scandal and tie to Melania Trump and Epstein. We've been following this story. Amanda Ungaro was threatening to bring down, to put down Melania. So I want to know, how is this story connecting? Is Trump involved? Is Trump in the file or is not in the file? I don't know how this story is connecting. I think it was huge, more than we expect.
We have some news right now regarding the Melania Trump Epstein story because a man named Paolo Zampoli is coming out of nowhere to say that he was the one who introduced Melania and Donald, not Jeffrey Epstein. After Melania Trump gave her very odd Epstein statement out of nowhere yesterday, Paolo Zampoli, who happens to be a Trump administration official, special representative at the moment, came out, called Sky News out of nowhere and said, no, Melania's right. I'm going to back her up. I introduced the two of them, not Jeffrey Epstein. But here's where things get weirder. The New York Times recently reported that Paolo Zampoli, who is a Trump official, called ICE to detain his ex-girlfriend. His ex-girlfriend, Amanda Ungaro, Brazilian model, was detained by ICE in Miami. Ungaro also happens to be the mother of Zampoli's child. And he, seemingly, according to the New York Times, used his leverage as a Trump official to call and get a hold of ICE so that he can get custody of his son. And now he's the person trying to back up Melania Trump's claims about her relationship or lack thereof with Epstein and whether or not Epstein introduced the two of them, or now it was Zampoli. The plot is thickening. Got to continue tracking this down. I won't stop. Spread the word. Follow for more.
Victoria Drake alleges she was drugged and in October 2023 by Paolo at his home. Text exchanges with her friend who contacted you. Yes. And she said, I reported it all to the NYPD. We're putting up the text exchange right now between Victoria and her friend. She said she reported it to the NYPD. She got a kit done. The hospital confirmed that she was drugged. The drugs were found in her system. She got Paolo to admit to it by phone on a voice note. She recorded him admitting that he did this. The FBI asked her to wear a wire, but she got this done on her voice note. And then all of a sudden, the case is dropped out of nowhere. Literally, every receipt, everything you need, done, signed, sealed, delivered, jail for life, and then dropped.
Yep. And to my understanding, what Victoria was told is due to Paolo's diplomatic status, there's nothing that they can do and that she should just sue him.
Due to his diplomatic status, which is a total fraud. When did he get the diplomatic status? Was it in Trump's first administration?
He's been working for the UN since the late 2000s.
Okay, so before Trump, he finds his way to get one of these things. And they hand him out.
Yeah, and Amanda will talk about the kind of fraud that goes on with the diplomatic passports and the UN stuff. It's just real sleazy, really pay to play.
He's an ambassador to Dominica. He's not even from Dominica, he's from Italy, but gets handed this ambassador to Dominica thing, which means you can go and you can people because you're going to be very hard to prosecute. What a scumbag. But also, Amanda, when Amanda's through all of this, one of the things that needs to change, and the next president needs to deliver this, is I don't care what ambassadorial thing you hold. You are prosecutable here in this country for any type of sex crime or any crime.
Every time, I agree. And it's also, it's really crazy to me because his diplomatic home that he lives in his diplomatic residence.
In Gramercy Park, is this the one in New York?
Yes. That's where
And there's a
this happened.
sign on the door that says diplomatic residence. Basically, I'm immune.
Yeah, I can do whatever I want. And he has like audio and video recording everywhere. And if I sent this over also, but he rents out those rooms as well.
He's like an Airbnb, this guy. He's such a scumbag.
Yeah. It's like, is that even legal for when you have diplomatic immunity? Is that even, that doesn't seem like a very safe thing for a tenant to be in a place where you can't be held to account for anything.
Quando eu cheguei no avião, tinha mais ou menos quase 30 meninas no avião. Aí eu achei uma coisa muito estranha. As meninas eram mais parecidas com meninas estudantes.
Major news update this morning as Amanda Ungaro has come out via Anthony Andrews on his X account and has said that she is going to pause speaking about what she knows for right now, as the response has been so incredibly overwhelming, and the response from the Trump administration has been equally as overwhelming. The press conference by Melania Trump is just a sign of what they are afraid of. And that's what she said. They're going crazy over this. They don't know what she knows. And that's absolutely right. She was tied in. She was part of the inner circle, one of Melania's best friends, one of her confidants. And she knows a lot, and she has a paper trail of things, and they don't know exactly what she has. And they know what they've done. They know what they've been involved in, and they are scared and freaking out over it. And because of that, and because of the backlash from some people in the public and comments on social media, she has to take a mental health pause on this and figure out how she's going to go forward with this and tell her story on her own timeline. And as soon as we have more information regarding this, I will update you as soon as possible. So be sure to keep checking back, and I'll see you here for the 411.
Decided to address the nation and the globe and went to the podium and stated that she had nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein and she was not a victim. So we all were wondering why. If you are not on X, which is formerly known as Twitter, you would not have seen that Amanda was active on X, formerly known as Twitter. And it's very important to say that because she was tweeting up a storm about Melania, which I think a lot of those texts and Twitters have been taken down. But she also was tweeting about Pam Bondi when those survivors were standing behind Pam Bondi and she refused to turn around. This is what Amanda had tweeted about, technically X, formerly known as Twitter. Ungaro, who was in a relationship with Paolo Zampoli. It's Paolo Zampoli, who is now with, or was last night, on tour with J.D. Vance. He is the ex of Amanda Ungaro and got her deported back to Brazil. How Amanda and Paolo got together. Amanda was scouted in Brazil at 13 years old. She moved to Milan to be a model. Paolo had his eye on her since the time she was 13. They got together when she was 17. Now, Amanda does state that she was on Jeffrey Epstein's plane. Her former agent, Jean Brunel, did try to convince her to smuggle snow over here in the United States. Jean Brunel is no longer with us. He was in a jail, found not with us anymore. It was a known fact that he provided Jeffrey Epstein with young girls. And Amanda Ungaro does remember that time where they tried to have her snuggle some snow and there was 30 other girls on this plane. Paolo had his eyes on Amanda since she was 13. They get together at 17. She comes over here to the United States and he kind of dangled that he was going to make her a citizen here and sponsor her just like he did Melania, but he never ended up doing it. Melania was really good friends with Paolo and they were partying in New York at the Kit Kat Club, and that is where she ran into Donald Trump, our sitting president. They get married and end of story, they're both in the White House. Hence why us American people are sitting here talking about this anyway. Paolo seems like bigger of a bag than we even realized, because there is a girl, her name is Victoria Drake, and she is very vocal here on TikTok, and she states in 2023 she was raped by Paolo Zampoli. There is police reports, and she is also on TikTok just stating how much Paolo is not a very good guy. Now, Amanda Ungaro states that the final straw of why she left Paolo was because there was an incident at their house in New York with this 15-year-old girl, that there was an incident. Paolo used to throw these big parties at his, and Paolo has a home in New York that is a diplomatic home. That means that the taxpayers pay for this home, and a lot of things went down at this home in New York. Amanda is pretty upset at this point, and Melania did nothing to help her. So she, like, when you sit and really think about it day after day, all of this information that keeps coming out, it is a corrupt administration, and the American people are not on the forefront, even when it comes to a global level. Netanyahu was in the Situation Room. I mean, like, let that sink in as to how much this administration is out of control and how much the American people, America first, it's not. And it was all based off lies. So taxpayer dollars go to these people in this administration. And on our off time, this is what we do. You know about this administration, it is deny, 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 deflect, using religion, God, Jesus to weaponize religion against some people here in the United States in order to get votes, when they are the most corrupt people, most wealthy and the most corrupt. If you reached all the way to the end of the video, thank you so much. Leave a little pink heart.
No, this article is not why Melania Trump had a press conference yesterday. First off, the rumors about the Lolita Express and Melania being on there and Epstein being the one to introduce Melania, that's been a thing for literally years. All the Daily Beast is doing is capitalizing on this Melania attraction, and Melania and the Daily Beast have gone up against each other a ton of times before. Melania has sued the Daily Beast before, and they've taken down stuff and they've retracted articles. No, guys, this is bigger. This is something that's coming with receipts. I am like 90% sure at this point that it's going to be about Zampoli, which was Melania's former agent, because this is the guy that they've claimed for years was the one who introduced Melania and Trump. And anybody that follows Becca Day knows that she has been on his A lately. Why? Because he recently sent ICE to pick up his victim turned baby mama, and she is ready to spill the tea. This man effectively stole their child from her, and so she's got nothing to lose. She's in another country, and if anybody has receipts, it's gonna be this woman. That's the story they're trying to get ahead of. At least that's my opinion. Time will tell, of course.
Maybe the First Lady can just saunter over across the hallway in the residence and ask her own husband to release the remaining Epstein files. That would be far more powerful than her performance this morning. Melania's name does appear in at least one FBI interview with an unidentified witness, a witness who told the agents that, quote, Epstein introduced Melania Trump to Donald Trump. Of course, we don't know if or how that witness would know that, but it would appear to contradict what Melania and her former modeling agent have been saying about how she and Trump met for years. So the First Lady talked a lot about herself, and in her own la-la land, she also tried to present herself, the spouse of the man withholding the Epstein files, as some sort of a defender of survivors.
Now is the time for Congress to act. Epstein was not alone. I call on Congress to provide the women who have been victimized by Epstein with a public hearing specifically centered around the survivors. Give these victims their opportunity to testify under oath in front of Congress with the power of sworn testimony.
First of all, I don't know if she's been living under a rock, but Democrats have tried to hold hearings. They have brought survivors to Congress to speak and tell their stories at high-profile events. But there have been no hearings because Republicans have not let that happen. And there's no way Melania's own husband has wanted them to happen either. After all, his Justice Department spent months defying a congressional subpoena for the Epstein files. So given all of that, it's not surprising that Melania Trump's bizarre, self-involved public statement also did not sit well with survivors. I mean, in response to the First Lady's remarks, a group of 15 survivors and family members of victims said in a statement, First Lady Melania Trump is now shifting the burden onto survivors under politicized conditions that protect those with power. The statement calls out the Justice Department, law enforcement, prosecutors, and the Trump administration, which has still not fully complied with the Epstein Files Transparency Act. And they add that it also diverts attention from Pam Bondi, who must answer for withheld files and the exposure of survivors' identities. And they issued a call to action saying survivors have done their part. Now it's time for those in power to do theirs.
This is when you know something isn't adding up. According to the Daily Beast, Melania Trump made a rare public statement denying any connections to the Jeffrey Epstein case. And it didn't calm anything down. It made things get weirder. Even Megyn Kelly, someone who has defended Trump's world many times, was sitting there basically going, wait, why would she even say something like this right now? Because that's the key point. This came out of nowhere. No major breaking development, no direct accusation forcing a response, just a sudden public denial. And that actually brought more attention back to Jeffrey Epstein. And that's why people are calling this a brain-breaking moment, because even allies can't explain the timing. Think about how rare this is. I mean, when your critics are confused, that's normal, but your allies, that's when something's off. And according to reporting, even Trump had no idea what she was going to say. This statement caught everyone off guard, so the question isn't just what she said. It's why she said it, because in politics, especially at this level, nothing is random. And when something doesn't make sense, people start digging. And that's exactly what's happening now. What do you think it is? Share your thoughts in the comments section and follow me for more.
Apparently there is an update. I follow a girl in here named Becca Day. She's incredible. She does all sorts of in-depth, deep dive breakdowns into the whole dump Schmepstein world and all of the players and who they are and what they're doing and what they're involved in. She's incredible. Well, there is a woman that is named Amanda Ungaro. She is a survivor of that world. She was married to someone very high in that world. I'm not going to say his name because I don't want my video to get flagged, but Amanda went on to Twitter. She's got lawyers. She's got a whole bunch of stuff that she's been working on for a while behind the scenes. And she went on to Twitter and called out Melania directly. I don't know what the timestamp or like when it corresponds with, like, did she do it before Melania's speech or after? But I think this has something to do with that. So if you have an opportunity and you want to do like a full deep dive today and like figure out who this Amanda Ungaro woman is, go to Becca Day's profile. She has all of her playlists like listed at the top. And I believe it would be in the Paolo, oh God, I shouldn't say his name, but Paolo Zampoli was her husband. And that's the playlist that the Amanda Ungaro stuff is under. But yeah, please go watch that stuff. And Becca is a very reputable source. So the plot thickens.
I know every video that I make about this topic is going to get suppressed, but I literally do not care because I think it's that important. There is something seriously wrong here that needs to be looked at. It is being completely overlooked that there is a man who is a part of our current administration who is in a long-term relationship and has a child with a model who he has been representing since she was a teenager and also appeared on Jeffrey's flight logs when she was just 17 years old. I've already done an in-depth video, but I'm going to give you the cliff notes so that you can understand why I believe that this is very alarming. So Paolo Zampoli, we've talked about him many times. He works in our current administration. He is on the board of the Kennedy Center. He has been a close friend and advisor and business partner to our sitting president since the 90s. He was the modeling agent who brought Melania to the United States to meet Donald Trump originally, and they would go on to be married. Right around the same time, in the mid to late 90s, both Paolo and Donald Trump would open their own modeling agencies. Both of their modeling agencies would go on to face claims and accusations of R-word, SA, theft of wages, overcrowded apartments where the models would be housed, exploitation, and visa fraud. Paolo is a United Nations diplomat. From 2013 to 2014, he collaborated with Ghislaine and Jeffries' fake oceanic nonprofit environmental organization, Terramar, which allowed Jeffrey and Ghislaine to make further connections and gain credibility through working with the United Nations. Through his modeling agency, ID Models, he would go on to represent a Brazilian teenager named Amanda Ungaro, and that is the teenager who would appear on Jeffrey's flight logs back in 2002 when she was just 17 years old. Just a few years after Amanda appeared on Jeffrey's flight logs, Paolo would go on to date her and they would have a child together, and she would go on to also become a United Nations ambassador. And they have been together romantically for nearly 20 years years, minus a brief moment in 2018 when they did break up. Amanda tried to leave Paolo in 2018 during Trump's first term, but Paolo called in some favors and had her flagged through immigration so that she could not return to her home country with her son. And Paolo also refused to pay her any kind of child support if she were to leave him. After this, they rekindled their relationship despite repeated allegations of infidelity and SA that Paolo has engaged in while in their relationship. Most recently, in June of 2025, just a couple months back, right around the time when the files became a topic of conversation again, Amanda was arrested in Miami alongside a Brazilian doctor, and they were arrested for illegally operating a medical facility, grand theft, organized scheme to defraud, and illegally acquiring prescription medications to give their patients, as they were allegedly offering invasive cosmetic procedures without any kind of licensing. When she was arrested, Amanda was placed on an immigration hold and set to be deported, and that is the last thing that we have heard about Amanda Ungaro, the longtime partner of someone who is sitting in this current administration, longtime friends with the president, who appeared on Jeffrey's flight logs back in 2002, is just being deported. And the day after Amanda was taken into custody, Paolo Zampoli posts this photo of himself and Pam Bondi on his social media. No mention of Amanda at all. Amanda is no longer appearing in any of his photos afterwards. Like, since she's been arrested, there's been no photos with her whatsoever. There's been no seeming concern for Amanda at all. He's just been posting like everything's great, normal, happy even. And I'm not saying that Amanda didn't do anything wrong. Obviously, this is the United States. You're innocent until proven guilty. Obviously, she is on the fast track to being deported. And that doesn't make any sense from the standpoint that she is still a United Nations diplomat. She should have a diplomatic passport. She should have diplomatic immunity from arrest and prosecution of a lot of different charges. In a lot of situations, local authorities don't have the authority to disregard diplomatic privileges. It doesn't make any sense how the United States is actively deporting a United Nations diplomat, and it's not being talked about at all in mainstream media. Regardless of the fact that she was on Jeffrey's plane at 17 years old, went on to have a child with the agent who is supposed to be representing her, who's 15 years her senior. Like, putting that aside because that's extremely relevant, but the fact that they're trying to deport a United Nations diplomat makes no sense at all. It doesn't make even a little bit of sense. I really hope that everyone is beginning to see the correlation between Donald Trump's modeling agency, Paolo Zampoli's modeling agency, John Casablancas' modeling agency, Jean-Luc Brunel's modeling agency, and how all of those men were friends of Jeffrey, and they all happily gave Jeffrey access to the droves of young girls and women that they had virtual ownership of. And we know for a fact that all of these men had very similar business models when it came to running modeling agencies. We know for a fact that one of the main ways that these men stacked their modeling agencies was via selling dreams to vulnerable young girls and young women, then illegally bringing them from overseas to the United States, where these young girls and young women would work for them. They would live in housing that they provided for them, which was typically overcrowded and run down. And these men would take up to 80% of these girls' wages, and these girls would be left at the mercy of them, not by their own choice, because they were guaranteed that their immigration would be all sorted out, but it never was. And before they knew it, they have nowhere to go. Obviously, this wasn't just happening internationally, this was happening domestically as well. But when it did happen internationally, and it did often, these girls would be put in terrible situations. A lot of these women and young girls would be required to attend events and parties to entertain the friends and associates of their bosses. Due to the nature of some of the accusations that have been levied against all of these men's modeling agencies, it's very safe to say that we all know what kind of operation this was. And right now, it's really starting to look like there's a lot of work being done behind the scenes to ensure that any victim is completely silenced, even if it means them being deported, when they hold the title of United Nations diplomat. I'm telling you guys, something is not right about this situation. And I know it's easy to judge Amanda because she's now, as a mugshot, she's arrested. I just feel like there's something more there. I'm not saying she's not guilty of those charges. I have no idea. I'm just saying there is absolutely something more to this situation. Okay, go to the next video because I found a story that aired on the news nearly 20 years ago about Paolo Zampoli and his close friend Donald Trump, and you guys are going to want to see it.
Melania Trump, the First Lady of the United States, just went and recorded an official statement at the White House claiming she had no connection to Jeffrey Epstein, didn't know any of his crimes. And this is a very weird thing to do just out of nowhere. So there's probably a story that's about to come out, and it probably won't be very good. I don't know if it's a book. I don't know what it's going to be, but this is very just odd, okay? And her statements, not really true either. There's plenty of evidence out there that she knew Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein way back into the early 2000s, including this email right here. So we'll see what happens. This is intensely weird. And just think about, we are in a country where the worst pedophile in modern history, the worst child sex trafficker in modern history, is someone that the First Lady has to talk about at the White House. Unreal.
Everybody get in here, be quiet, because I have the tea as to why allegedly Melania Trump did a press conference last night that White House officials didn't even know about and that nobody asked for it. Baby, let's chat. Are a lot of names that you need to know in this story. The first name that you need to know is Paolo Zampoli, okay? This is the man who has taken the credit for introducing Donald Trump and Melania Trump, not Jeffrey Epstein. Paolo has an ex-wife named Amanda Ungaro. Amanda came to the U.S. from Brazil on Jeffrey Epstein's plane at the age of 15. Amanda Ungaro came to the U.S. at the age of 15 on Jeffrey Epstein's plane. From there, her ex-husband Paolo basically groomed her. I tell you that this tea is so juicy that it really gives like internet circa Tumblr. Like internet when everybody thought that the Esquire from Crazy Days and Nights was really Robert Downey Jr. Now, Amanda is a U.S. diplomat, so she should have not been deported. However, she was deported back to Brazil. The person who is responsible for doing that, her ex-husband, right? But they have a son together, and the son is still here in the U.S. He's around about the age 15, 16. Baby, you know us women. You could play with us all day long, but when your playing starts to touch my kid, I'm going scorched earth. And that's what Amanda's doing. Allegedly. Hippa hippa. Apparently, Amanda has been doing media over in Brazil, but about a day ago, right before Melania decided to do this press conference, a page claiming to be Amanda Ungaro went active for the first time in a minute. This is truly Amanda. I told you she was going scorched earth. She starts with this tweet: I have nothing left to lose in my life. I will tear down the entire system. Be careful with me, bitch. This is Shonda Rhimes level writing. She goes on to say, I will tear down your corrupt system, even if it's the last thing I do in my life. I will go all the way. I'm not afraid. Maybe you should be afraid of what I know, of who you are and who your husband is. He's a man that likes to grab women by the pussy. Back to part 2. There are more tweets, so we have to keep chatting.
Things are going dramatically wrong for Donald Trump at this point. And there could be parallel tracks.
Melania had been dating Donald Trump for at least 4 years at that point. So Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump and Melania overlapped in their relationship history for at least 4 years.
Throw it out there and have people pin it down. Things are going dramatically wrong for Donald Trump. And there could be parallel tracks. They're going wrong for in the war. They're going wrong from the country, going wrong in terms of heading into the midterms elections. It's quite possible that they're going wrong in terms of his marriage, or that all of these things become linked, as they do with everyone. When one thing goes wrong, other thing goes wrong. And she is now stepping into the middle of this. So what she is doing, and I think we can safely say this, what she has done is not without meaning. It means something. It is to some purpose. What that purpose might be, we don't yet know, but it could very well be the personal in an interfacing of the personal and the political.
Okay, I'm like pretty much 100% sure I now know why Melania Trump got up yesterday and made that big speech, simultaneously denouncing her relationship with Epstein and saying that all of the victims deserves their day in court and to give their full testimonies, which was interesting to say the least. The answer is these tweets by Amanda Ungaro that she was sending out the night before or the morning of April 9th, depending on what time zone you're in, which we will get to that when it comes to her in a minute. We're going to come back to these tweets. First of all, who is Amanda Ungaro? Amanda Ungaro is many things, including the ex-wife of Paolo Zampoli. Who is Paolo Paolo Zampoli, might you ask? Good question, because he's come up in the news actually multiple times in the past year, either with or without his name, just in like the ways that it was circulating. So I think a lot of people don't realize that all of them were this one guy. Let's get into it. Paolo Zampoli is a close personal friend of Donald Trump. He is currently the United States Special Envoy for Global Partnerships. In the first Trump term, he was appointed to the Board of Trustees for the Kennedy Space Center. Interesting how that needs to keep cropping up. So, close personal friend of Donald Trump. They met because he owned a modeling agency, and they became close through that world. What was Paolo Zampoli's modeling agency renowned for, might you ask? Well, for getting visa situations for like 14 to 16-year-old, very young Eastern European girls to come model in the United States. Model. What do we have that associated with in the Epstein world now? You may also recognize the name or character of Paolo from a few months ago, the headline of when he got his ex-wife deported by calling ICE on her and separating her from her 15-year-old son, essentially kidnapping him and becoming the sole custody person. They initially met when she came to Manhattan from Paris on Lolita's Express, Jeffrey Epstein's plane. That's how they met for the first time. She was 17, he was 32, by the way. It bears mentioning here that in tapes taken by author Michael Wolff, Jeffrey Epstein claimed that Melania and Trump slept together for the first time on Lolita's Express, his plane. So you better believe that in the very first hours of April 9th, when Amanda Ungaro is getting on Twitter, directly adding the First Lady's account saying, "Do you know what I think about you after 20 years? She has thoughts, and they are true. She has seen some things." He then goes on to say, "I will take legal action against you and your," I had to scribble it out, "husband. I have known you for 20 years. You know I was detained in ICE. You were present in my life every year on my son's birthday, even sending Secret Service and being the first to congratulate him back in 2016. Something was clearly wrong, but I am not part of any evil mission involving children. So what did you do, Melania? You tried to involve me, but you failed because I have character." Clearly here implying that Melania tried to get her in on some kind of the sex trafficking ring, and she denied. "I will tear down your corrupt system, even if it is the last thing I do. I will go all the way. I am not afraid. Maybe you should be afraid of what I know, of who you are, of who your husband is." Yeah. And then she's finding this old address that Melania did and saying, "Until you fall as a little chicken," which is just funny. And there's a TikToker on here. I'll find his @ and put it up here so you guys can see that it started making videos about this earlier, or maybe even previously to this. And she very correctly was saying the fact she's worried about what I know says everything. And yes, it does, because the fact that Melania, is a response to this is the only thing it could be a response to, in my opinion, gets up and does a completely impromptu address that allegedly Trump was not even aware that she was about to be making. Girl, you're scared. So not only is this girlhood dead, but she could be the reason that the Trump administration finally gets brought down. We need to get her back from Brazil. We need to get her testifying on the stand everything she knows about this woman and tangentially the President of the United States.
Well, we now know that Elon Musk was telling the truth, and we now know why the alleged President Donald Trump was not suing Elon Musk for defamation. Wall Street Journal just dropped the story that Pam Bondi notified the alleged President Donald Trump in May that he is listed many times in the Epstein files. So it turns out Elon was telling the truth. Of course, we all knew it anyway. I mean, the guy was best friends with Epstein for so long. And this whole thing with that, the Department of Justice is now going to proceed with prosecution against Barack Obama, is just a distraction from these Epstein files. Because now we know, and it's been confirmed, that he is in the files and he's mentioned many, many times, along with a whole host of other people that maybe at some point we'll get to the bottom of it and get all of these names out there. But yeah, Elon was telling the truth. It's too bad Elon Musk just doesn't have a copy of the Epstein files on a hard drive somewhere that he would like to share with everybody on X, or, you know, maybe Elon, you should just come out and tell us everything that you know and stop playing this cat and mouse game with the alleged President, Donald Trump. Like, share, follow for more. This is Grim with Get the Rant, and I will see you all in the next video.
Melania Trump said she never had any knowledge of Epstein's abuse of his victims. Really? Because in 2006, Donald Trump told police that everyone knew. He said everyone has known he's been doing this. People in New York knew Epstein was disgusting. So everyone knew, but Melania didn't? She was married to Trump at the time. Trump told police about Epstein, but he never told his wife? I'm not buying it. Melania also said, "I have never been friends with Epstein." Okay, but she knew her husband was. In 2002, Trump told New York Magazine that he had known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy. He's a lot of fun to be with. It is even said he likes beautiful women as much as I do. and many of them are on the younger side. Melania saw that. She wasn't disgusted. She wasn't disturbed. Quite the opposite. She wrote to Ghislaine Maxwell, "Nice story about Jeffrey Epstein in New York Magazine." I'm also calling BS on Melania's denial that she ever had a relationship with Maxwell. She described their correspondence as just casual. But their emails in the Epstein files tell a different story. They had nicknames for each other. Melania called Maxwell G. Maxwell called Melania Sweet Pea. They spoke on the phone. They made plans to meet. Sounds like more of a relationship than Melania has with her husband. Melania said she wasn't a witness to Epstein's crimes and that her name has never appeared in Epstein court documents, depositions, or interview reports. But how does she know that? Not all the Epstein files are public. Did DOJ search all the files for Melania's name? If they did, why? Then there are Melania's powerful admissions. She said Epstein was not alone. So she's saying that others were involved in Epstein's crimes? Great. Why don't you tell that to DOJ? Since DOJ said there's no basis to investigate anyone else. Melania also called Maxwell Epstein's accomplice. That's what a jury said too. So why don't you tell your husband to move Maxwell back to a maximum security prison, reject Maxwell's pardon request, and charge her for falsely denying that she was Epstein's accomplice to Todd Blanche? But Melania's solution isn't for DOJ leaders to step up and do their jobs. It's for victims to testify publicly under oath before Congress. As a former sex trafficking prosecutor, I can tell you that's not how this works. Victims often don't want to be publicly identified for fear of lawsuits, retaliation, and risks to their safety. And many victims have already spoken to the FBI. Why should they have to be re-traumatized and do it again? If Melania Trump truly wants to champion Epstein survivors, she should start at home. Tell your husband to testify before Congress.
Our government not dropping the Epstein list should tell you everything you need to know about the state of our country and the world, and it's the very reason why all of us are completely fucked and will remain slaves to the system. I mean, just think about the straight up lies that these people will puke out of their mouths on a day-to-day basis, and yet we still do absolutely nothing about it. First, it was, yep, there's more than enough evidence to suggest that Epstein was absolutely taken out and that there's no way he could have Control-Alt-Deleted himself. Then it was, yep, there absolutely is an Epstein list, and eventually it will be made public so that everyone can see the insane amount of high status level people that are on it. I mean, we were literally told that this Epstein list is sitting on a desk and will be revealed, and yet, here we are. Not only was this list never on any desk, the list doesn't even exist. Oh, and Epstein? Yeah, apparently there is no evidence to suggest that he was taken out, and that the loss of his life is absolutely, irrefutably self-termination. It's like, how stupid do they think we are? You mean to tell me that our government, as well as any other high-ranking members of the reptilian, blood-drinking elite 1% that are actually running our government, expect us to believe that magically this list that we've all been just waiting for just disappeared? You fucking told us that you had a list, and now, nothing. I mean, if this doesn't strike fear deep into your hearts at the level of corruption and pure evil that they are willing to keep hidden, I don't know what will. This is some straight-up scary shit. Who is on that list? What information are they so afraid of us knowing? I mean, just think about it. If there was any way that the people, aka you and I, would even begin to start putting faith into our leaders again, it would have started by dropping the list. Give us the names of these straight up psychopaths who would be willing to travel to that island and do God knows what to those little kids. But no, suddenly this list doesn't exist anymore. It's all just gone, and we're the crazy ones for feeding into a wild conspiracy about Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, what the actual fuck? This is our nightmare. It is clear that if that list would have been made public, that it would have completely changed the fabric of our society. We would be made aware of not only the deplorable fucks who went to that island, but I'm sure it also would have revealed the disturbingly evil web of bullshit going on in the world, everything from Hollywood to our media. They know that if that ever got out, it would be the end of their sick, twisted, and evil tyrannical games. And we're not over here talking about a revolution, are we? How the people need to come together as one to try and regain some sense of normalcy in our lives. I hate to break it to you, but this story right here should prove to everyone that it's over. There is no revolution. There will be no change to better our lives. Simply put, the bad guys have won. We are now living in a strange and terrifying world where we have the illusion of choice, the illusion of free will to believe that if we just work hard, if we try our best, then we are able to find success. That's a little horseshit, because if we are living in a society where they had access to a list and information about all the evil shit going on behind closed doors that we have all been suspicious of, and suddenly that information just vanishes into thin air overnight, well then I hate to tell you, we are completely and totally fucked. It's really hard, especially as a forever optimist, to believe in this, but I don't know, man, it really does feel like we've lost all hope, and that these evil people that infiltrate our media, our government, our world banks, and our pop culture continue to win while we continue to lose.
So the survivors responded to Melania's press briefing, and I am so incredibly proud of them, because if you read their press briefing, let's just read it. Let's read it right here. Survivors of Jeffrey Epstein have already shown extraordinary courage by coming forward and giving testimony. Asking more of them now is a deflection of responsibility, not justice. First Lady Melania Trump is now shifting the burden onto survivors. Then go on to say, this diverts attention from Pam Bondi, who must answer for the withheld files. Those failures continue to put lives at risk while shielding enablers. That is, they should be in charge. They should be in charge of this investigation. Like, I know that they shouldn't, because they need to be able to live their life and move on. They have freaking earned it. But holy crap, this is the best response to this. To say, no, Melania, you have all the information. Why aren't you interviewing Pam Bondi? The DOJ still has half of the Epstein documents that has been released. You haven't released the documents or launched an investigation into any of the co-conspirators. This is not the responsibility of the survivors. They've freaking done their part, and I am so proud of these women. And they've had to go through so much, and now, again, they're standing up and saying, this is enough.
How's this situation with the First Lady and Amanda Ungaro really going to be reported? Because let's be real, everything up to this point has been nothing but a straight-up joke. And I just found out last night how all of this actually went down and how it's all coming to light. And I can almost promise you, no one from the mainstream media is going to report on this stuff. It all went down, and when you start figuring out the abuses of power, you're probably just going to shake your head, because allegedly all of this went down after a relationship dispute and a custody battle. But it all started with Amanda's hand on a laser machine, allegedly. Her med spa that she was an administrative assistant at got shut down. She was arrested for fraud. And then somehow, some way, her ex-husband, who is buddies with the big guy, made a phone call, and she got transferred from jail to ICE detention, where she sat for 3.5 months, and then got deported to Spain. I don't think any of the media is going to report on this the way that we need to be talking about it. And I'm telling you right now, we need to protect Amanda Ungaro at all costs, because we don't need Pam Bondi sitting in front of Congress. We need people talking to Amanda Ungaro who can make things happen with these files. And I don't think it's our justice system. Let me know what you think in the comments.
Hey everybody, it's 9 p.m. on the east coast of Florida. Sorry for the late reporting, but we do have a bit of a breaking news update on this rather stunning story about Melania Trump's statement that was stunning. And that was heard around the world. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody in the news, everyone I know, the Book of Face, everywhere. Everybody's going, what, why now? The timing. Nobody had been talking about the Epstein thing other than about Pam Bondi and the DOJ saying, nope, she's not going to appear for that deposition that she was required by subpoena to do on April 14th. They're saying because she's not the AG anymore, which is nonsense, because the subpoena was also in her personal name, not just as AG. And we also know that many people come after they're no longer holding a certain office, such as former Attorney General Bill Barr, who did testify under oath in a deposition and so on, after he was no longer in that office anymore. So that's ridiculous. But that's the only thing that had been being talked about. So to have her call attention to a whole situation that Trump and the White House have been trying to push away. Todd Blanche was like, yeah, we don't need to talk about that anymore. And, Trump always saying it's a fake story. And she comes out and she did not say anything about this was fake. And by the way, I heard her statement again tonight, both times in full. And the second time, I realized that momentary time that she talked about him, she didn't say my husband. She just said Donald Trump. She didn't say my husband. So that doesn't seem like a little joint thing there. And just as I had said that MS, right away when this happened, reported that they had a reporter that called Trump up to see if he knew about this. And he seemed kind of flustered, said he didn't know, and then got off the phone quick. But then CNN was kind of trying to say that, maybe they were briefed on it. Well, we are hearing some updates on that. So in the reporting through Yahoo News and The Globe, they are saying in a late tonight report from a journalist, Rob Shooter, on his Naughty But Nice Substack, that Trump, quote, did not know this was happening until just before she walked out. And boy, she walked out there with a purpose. She looked, I don't know what the word would be, enraged, mad. When it was close up to her, because I'm a performer, and sometimes you can shake a little bit out of nerves or whatever emotion you might be having, anticipation, anxiety, whatever it might be. I saw a little bit of like her hair shaking, that I felt like there was something going on behind the scenes there. So they're saying that her public statement denying the whole rumored friendship with Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, that this statement came as a surprise to basically everybody. No one in the press pool, reporters, nobody knew ahead of time. She called them all to say she had a statement to make. And Stephanie Grisham, who was her former personal assistant, also her spokesperson, all of that, and knows her very, 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 very well. They had a very close relationship. Now, obviously, that is strained. But she spoke right away about this and said that is very out of character for her to come out and make a statement like that. I would only say she was doing this if she was trying to get ahead of something. And absolutely anybody in media or, people that try to handle scandals, that's absolutely what that looked like. Somebody who's trying to get ahead of something much worse. Trump did that all the time. Remember all the times that he would get indicted, especially like the Mar-a-Lago documents case. He would talk about it before it happened, or the, one in Fulton County, Georgia. He would come out because they want to put a spin on it before that bad news gets out there. They want their version of it. So this source allegedly said, quote, Trump was briefed very late. This was not coordinated in the usual way. People were blindsided. No leaks, no rollout, nothing. Now, this Globe had previously reported that she had made this rare public address that was streamed live by the White House. So it was coordinated, even though it was at the last moment. She began her remarks by what we all heard, the lies linking me with the disgraceful Jeffrey Epstein needs to end today. And she goes on and on and on for a long time, much longer than she had to. This could have been a very short statement. And during this, she definitely seemed disgusted by Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine and anyone involved in that, if you know what I mean. During that, she talked about, the email communications that we had seen between her and Ghislaine, and said they, quote, cannot be categorized as anything more than casual correspondence, that it was a polite response. Now we know, however, when we saw it, that Ghislaine used like a little pet name for Melania. So again, I don't know, allegedly, who knows. But another one of the sources for this reporter claimed that Melania is, quote, getting ahead of information. So allegedly, this is what the reporting is coming out, entertainment purposes. He added, there is a belief that more could come out and that she wanted her version to come out on record first. The Naughty But Nice report in that Substack also mentioned that there is a woman by the name of Amanda Ungaro that may come into play. Now, the New York Times reported via People magazine that this Amanda Ungaro, who allegedly arrived in the States on Epstein's plane in 2002, was deported. And her ex-boyfriend is Paolo Zampoli, who has the ties to both Melania and Donald Trump. Remember, that is the guy who got her to the States, the whole modeling thing. And that's part of the problematic thing here. Her world is that world. It's that modeling world, getting these, beautiful women from these other countries, bringing them here. You had the Paolo Zampoli, who was very close with the Jean-Luc Brunel, the whole modeling agency stuff. And remember, he was the French version of Epstein. And he also in jail before he came to trial. But she said in this statement as well, which was weird. Oh, that's where she said. She didn't say husband when she could have. She said, I met Donald Trump through, this party. She didn't say I met my husband at this party. That's very odd. I met Donald Trump. But anyway, she was denying these rumors that people had been trying to say that Jeffrey Epstein had introduced them. Anyway, this insider told the reporter, quote, this Amanda Ungaro knows everything. She may have been deported, but she hasn't been silenced. She has nothing to lose, and that makes people nervous. And also, this insider said, as far as the First Lady, Melania's stepping out like this was not random. And he went on to say, it was calculated. He said she's protecting her name on her terms. This was not damage control. This was preemptive, which, yes, anybody knowing any of this kind of stuff, that is absolutely what that looked like. And then at the end of this article, it says what I had already reported on, and that was that following her remarks, the president allegedly got a phone call with that MS Now reporter and told the news network that he didn't know about her statement ahead of time, saying she didn't know Epstein, and then hung up. So I guess like everything in these last few days, particularly since Sunday, we are just all having to wake up wondering what new, fresh, what is going to happen. And as one of my followers, put on a comment on here, they said that's what you get, when you elect a reality TV star, like every day, that's what's going to be out there. And, didn't have the Pope situation on my bingo card. I don't think we had the whole, getting rid of a whole civilization or telling them all that but now we got this. So, all right, we'll see what happens tomorrow, folks. And tomorrow's a Friday. So that makes this even weirder that this is a Thursday night, because Fridays are when usually big bombshell things come out because they want it to simmer over the weekend. But all I can say is that was one very activated, triggered, angry woman who came out and spoke. So, all right, everyone, talk to y'all later.
Release the files because everyone is accusing each other. I don't know when are we getting the files. When are we getting the files? Release the files. We are tired of waiting. We want to see who is in the files. Anyway, thank you for watching Great Minds Black. See you. Don't forget to subscribe. Click that button, and thank you for supporting us. Don't forget to comment and to reply. We are here to serve you more. We are here to expose who is in the file. Don't deny if we come after you. And not get annoyed.
Thank you for watching Great Minds Blacks.